Instead of getting down on yourself for procrastinating and trying to resolve it by ramping up discipline and ramping up motivation, it's best to begin by understanding why the brain had to use procrastination to protect the child. Now, I want to just lay out how I want to approach this topic. Because many, when they approach this topic, I think approach it in ways that really don't work well for people with complex trauma. So many approach procrastination and just see it as a character flaw that they need to overcome. So what tools do I need to just get over this character flaw? And they're judging themselves. They're seeing it very negatively as a bad thing. And so they go to many therapists and self-help books. And the approach that is used often doesn't work with people from complex trauma. It gives a lot of helpful advice, but it doesn't produce lasting change for people from complex trauma because it doesn't get to the crux of the matter. So the focus is becoming motivated, getting organized, accountability, having a to-do list, increasing your self-discipline, rallying support for you, how to make good decisions, think positively. So it's really focused on that area of changing behaviors. And that usually doesn't work. And so it's really important, I think, to deal with this correctly is to understand that the brain actually developed the strategy of procrastination to protect a little child. It was their only tool available to protect this child from getting hurt. And so if you look at it as initially being not a flaw, but a thing that the brain was doing to try to protect the child. So instead of getting down on yourself for procrastinating and trying to resolve it by ramping up discipline and ramping up motivation, it's best to begin by understanding why the brain had to use procrastination to protect the child. We really have to deal with it on two levels. You got to deal with practical stuff in the here and now, but you got to deal with that wounded child. Why did that brain develop procrastination as a way to protect that child? But before we get to that, let me start with two important things that you need to make a distinction between. Most only see procrastination in negative light as something that is unhealthy. But I think there's actually two times in our life when procrastination presents itself as actually something healthy, something we need to pay attention to. So, number one, if you are exhausted, if you've been pushing yourself too hard, if you have not been doing proper self-care, meeting your 12 needs in a healthy way, you're going to be burning yourself out. So now when you have a new responsibility, your brain is going to go, I can't do this. I don't have the energy to do this. I want to procrastinate. It is trying to send you a warning sign. It is trying to tell you you're overwhelmed, you're exhausted, you need to rest. You don't need to be thinking about more responsibilities. You need to be thinking about healthy self-care. And so if you're finding yourself wanting to procrastinate again, ask yourself, is this an unhealthy thing where I'm sliding into old behaviors for the wrong reasons, or is this actually my body sending me a healthy message saying you're exhausted, you need self-care? Second thing is that most of us, when we are faced with a new responsibility, sometimes it would be very unhealthy to just take on that responsibility right away without having thought it through carefully. We need to be able to give ourselves time, especially if it's a big responsibility, to go, okay, what steps would be involved to accomplish this? What resources would that require? Will I need to involve others? Do I have the time and the strength right now to do all of this stuff? Those are so important questions. So the danger for so many people who've been procrastinating is to think, okay, I just got to start a task right away, but they haven't thought it through. They get into the task, they realize, uh-oh, this is too much. I don't have the time or the energy, and then they quit. Then they beat themselves up for quitting. And so there's a healthy planning stage in most important decisions. That isn't procrastination. That's actually taking the necessary time to plan carefully. So let's look at dealing with the wounds from the past and the deep fears that those wounds have created as one aspect of healing procrastination. So think back, first of all, to your earliest memory you have of when you procrastinated. If you're able to connect to that memory, ask yourself what you were feeling as a child at that time, why your brain felt it needed to procrastinate. And usually you're going to find there is some fear. So find out what that fear was about. Was it a fear of punishment? Was it a fear of failure? Was it a fear of being rejected, laughed at? Look at what that fear was. What you can also do when you're there in that memory is just ask, are there any body sensations that I'm experiencing right now that might accompany that memory? Often people will feel something in their gut or their throat or their chest area. They'll have trouble breathing. They'll feel kind of an increase of heat in their face. Check out body sensations. Then go to, okay, what did that little child need at that time to help them face that fear? Did they just need encouragement? Did they need somebody to teach them? Did they need somebody to show them how to do it? Did they need to be able to do something and fail and not get criticized? What did that child need? Then comfort that child, assure that child, but then go, probably that's the fear I'm facing today. So get into your cortex and go, okay, what do I need to give myself today? Maybe I need to learn some tools here that I don't have. Maybe I need encouragement from somebody else. Maybe I need support from somebody else. Figure out, what do I need today? And there's no shame in that. There's no judgment in that. You are trying to give to yourself now the things that weren't given to you as a child. Now, you may initially need a mentor or a therapist to help you go through this process of understanding why procrastination was developed by your brain as a child to protect you, and to help you begin to know how to help that little child, which means helping yourself today. So don't be afraid to ask for a therapist or a mentor to help you with this. Let me go to practical tools for today. So you've brought healing to the little child, but now you got the bad habit to deal with. You got to overcome the inertia of years of doing it this way. What are some practical things you can do to help yourself break this procrastination behavior? Here's some of the things that help me. Break a big task down into little tasks. So if I got to get this big task done, that just feels overwhelming. So break it down into 50 little steps. I could do this today, that tomorrow, and over the period of a week, I'm going to get the task done. So break big tasks down into little tasks. Don't be afraid to reward yourself. If I accomplish this, then I am going to reward myself with something I really like. That's what we do for a child. If you do this, I'll take you out for ice cream. Rewards are okay. Our limbic brain still needs those along the way. And then don't necessarily just wait to the end or the completion of the project to give yourself a reward. It's okay to give yourself rewards along the way. Oh, I got these steps done. Let's have a reward. So we need that positive encouragement of rewards. And that doesn't mean I'm weak. That doesn't mean I'm a failure. That's just how we work, and it's okay to do it. Some people, what they have to do is begin to learn to do the thing I least want to do first. So I'm not going to put it off and do more enjoyable tasks first and then never get around to that. I need to get what I least want to do done right off. Second, some people, if they're going to say, okay, I'm going to start this job, they need like a 10-minute, we call it 10-minute technique to warm up to the job, where they do little activities. They do some yoga, they listen to some music, they get themselves into a good headspace. And so allow yourself, if you need it, a 10-minute, 15-minute window to kind of get yourself into the mood. Some people, they need to change their environment. So I need to write this letter. I need to get this project done. I can't do it sitting in my office or sitting in my living room. I need to find a different place and change it up, and that often helps them get started. Another thing that people can do is to say, I am not going to start this task and stick at it for 3 hours until it's done. That's just too much for me. I'm going to break it into 30-minute windows, 30-minute blocks, and then it will be done, but I'm not going to overwhelm myself with the whole project. Some people find it helpful to just put it on the calendar. I am going to start this job at this time. Then they make themselves accountable to a friend, but having it that start time on the calendar is so important for them. Another thing is I have asked myself, when am I most motivated to do hard work? And that's usually for me, and it's going to be different for everybody, but it's the earlier in the morning, the better. And often it's a certain day of the week or on the weekend when I am just kind of in my prime energy place. Okay, let's do the hardest jobs in my prime energy place. So learn that about yourself. Another thing that's so helpful for many people is to make to-do lists, but it's kind of to lists. What do I need to get done over the week? So what are my weekly responsibilities? How much free time do I have? And then based on that, I make a daily list. Okay, here's what I got done today. Here's where I can fit in this extra job. So those lists are very helpful for people. Another thing that can be so helpful is do it with a friend. If you're just finding it impossible to get motivated to do it on your own, ask a friend, would you come over and just help me as I do this project? Just be with me as I do this project. That can often provide some great motivation. Another thing, be accountable. Tell your friend, I'm going to be doing this job today. Check in with me tomorrow just to make sure I've done it. And that just provides a little bit of extra motivation. Play the tape to the end. Just get out of that limbic brain, which is procrastination, is I want to avoid. This is too much. I'm feeling stressed, overwhelmed. Get back to your cortex and go, if I don't do this, here's the consequences. If I force myself somehow, find a way to do it, I am going to be so thankful. It's going to be such a relief of stress. It's going to be way better feeling than instant gratification now beating myself up later. So you have to learn what works for you. And so it's going to take some time to figure out kind of what helps me get jobs done properly. There's always going to be an element of, I got to get out of my limbic brain, get into my cortex, do this, even though I don't enjoy it, don't feel like it, but it's got to be done. And I'm going to do it anyways, regardless of what my limbic brain says. So I hope that helps you with procrastination stuff. So many of you struggle, you beat yourself up. Start with healing that wounded child, understanding why that child procrastinated. Deal with that and then learn some of the practical tools.